I want you to imagine something. Just stay with me for a minute. I promise we're going to get to politics here in a couple minutes. I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine you've been loaded onto a train car against your will. It's hot on the train car, can hardly breathe. Everyone's packed in there like cattle. And you finally get to a big camp. You get off at the camp, and there's a man standing there. He's wearing actually a white lab coat because he's a doctor. And he's looking at the people who are being hauled off the train at gunpoint because this is a death camp. And he's looking around, and he lays his eyes on the person you love the most, whoever that may be, the person you love the most. And he says, that's the one I want. And he grabs him, and he takes him away, and he goes and performs medical experiments on them without the benefit of any anesthesia. I'm going somewhere with this, just hang with me. Eventually you find out that the person you love the most died while essentially being tortured and having their liver taken out without anesthesia. Now that you're there, now that you're in that dark place, just stay with me for a moment. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about you getting called up for jury duty. You got called up for jury duty. All right. Woohoo! You find out when you show up at the trial that it is actually that doctor on trial. But, hold on. The doctor, he's not on trial for what he did to your loved one at all. No, he's on trial for unpaid parking tickets. I guess he does this a lot. He's got like 1,000 of them. He's on trial for unpaid parking tickets. And so he's up for serious prison time. He's been warned and fined. He won't pay him. He's up for 5-10 years of prison time. And you are going to be on the jury. Let me ask you something. You haven't seen a single piece of evidence in this weird kind of dark hypothetical scenario I just gave you. Obviously, we're talking about a Nazi doctor here. So you haven't seen any evidence yet, but let me ask you something. Are you going to convict that person? Does it even matter what comes out at the trial? Would you care? This is a monster. This is a monster in human form. Is there anything that would stop you from convicting that person? Now, why am I talking about this? Why am I bringing this up? Well, here's why. I am very fond of saying some things that make some people angry. I don't say them because they make people angry. I say them because I believe them. And I realize some of these things are crazy and uncomfortable. One of the things sound crazy. I think they're accurate. But anyway, one of the things I'm fond of telling you is you need to move. If you're in a blue area now, still in the year 2023, you need to pack up and move. If you can. I realize there are job concerns, and maybe you're taking care of your sick mother, or I realize there are some people, many people who can't. But if it's possible, you need to relocate your family and get out. Why do I say that? Well, there are a bunch of different reasons. I'm not going to go into all of them again now. Long-time viewers of the show will know the reasons, but one of the reasons I bring up constantly is if you are in a blue area now, it's not like a blue area was in 1980. You have an activist communist mayor. You have an activist communist DA funded by George Soros, put there because he is a communist. He is put there for a purpose, and it is not prosecuting criminals. And you have activist communists who will be sitting on your jury. And these jurors of yours, when that George Soros-funded communist DA takes that lifelong felon and springs him out of jail, and then he comes and tries to stab your wife when you're on the way out of dinner one night, and you have to pull out your firearm and put him down, and it was self-defense, and you're good to go. But you see, it's a Soros-funded DA who's there to help his friends and punish his enemies. So while he's deciding whether or not to charge you, he pulls up your Facebook account and says, wow, look at this right-winger. Hey, you see this Nazi in a MAGA hat? Charge him. Well, if that's the case for you, I want you to pay very close attention to this video. This is the foreman for the grand jury for Donald Trump in Atlanta. I want you to know that when this person sits on your jury, as you sit there, New York, Chicago, I'm not leaving, I love the city, I'm staying blue, baby, California. While you sit there and you just enjoy it up, God forbid you ever get crossways with the law, what do you think this person's gonna do with you?
Did you personally want to hear from the former president?
I wanted to hear from the former president, but honestly, I kind of wanted to subpoena the former president because I got to swear everybody in. And so I thought it'd be really cool to get 60 seconds with President Trump of me looking at him and being like, do you solemnly swear? And me getting to swear him in. I kind of just thought that would be an awesome moment.
What would your reaction be if the DA decides against bringing any charges after what you've seen?
I will be sad if nothing happens. Like that's about my only request there is for something to happen. I don't necessarily know what it is. I'm not the legal expert. I'm not the judge. I'm not the lawyers, but I will be frustrated if nothing happens. This was too much information, too much of my time, too much of everyone's time, too much of their time, too much argument in court about getting people to appear before us. There was just too much for this to just be, oh, okay, we're good, bye.
And if it was just a perjury charge, or perjury charges, would that be acceptable to you?
That's fine. I will be happy as long as something happens.
Obviously, this is about Trump, but this is about so much more than Trump. Jesse, stop telling me to move. Jesse, I love LA. I got the breakfast taco place right down at the corner, man. I know. I love LA too. Jesse, I love New York, man. New York City's like my favorite place in the world. I love it too. I get it. I get it. I've lived here my whole life. My grandpa lived. I get it. I understand the history. I understand the tradition. I understand the ties. But I want you to understand. There's a reason all the January 6th political prisoners have had the book thrown at them, because every single one of them have been tried in front of 12 jurors, just like that vile little communist, who will without hesitation throw you in a dark hole and rip you away from your family for the rest of your life. Not because you did anything wrong, but because we have a brand new Democrat Party in this country, and they are activist communists and they mean business. That's why I tell you it over and over and over again, and I'm never going to stop. You are not protected in a blue area. You have no protection. You are naked. You are. Even the cops. What do you think? Have you paid attention to the cops? Have you paid attention to the retirements? Who do you think's retiring? Packing it up, going to turn in their papers. All the good ones. They're all gone. They're all not gone yet, but they are. They're leaving. They're gone. They're not sticking around for this. They're going to go be a cop in Florida somewhere. They're done. They're done with it. You won't even have the cops on your side. Not the cops, not the DA, not the mayor, not the jury. So when I tell people to move, it understandably is a spicy thing to suggest. You inevitably will have people bark back at you and say things like, I'm never leaving, Jesse. I'm standing to fight. And I will tell you, I admire the attitude, and boy, it sounds tough. Sounds tough. You're not leaving at all. Okay. That should be a real comfort to your wife and kids for the next 30 years while they visit you behind a pane of bulletproof glass in state prison because you wanted to stay and fight, and 12 communists looked at your Facebook posts and decided you were a Nazi. You see, they look at you just like you looked at that Nazi in the very beginning of the show. That may make you uncomfortable, but I am right.